Hey everybody, Shane with 3MGTV, and today we're going to talk about drummers versus programmed drums or drum machines. And we're going to cover quite a few things, so if you want me to talk any more about any one thing, let me know in the comments and I'll do that. So I think there's two big points to this thing, and we're going to tackle them totally separately. And the first one is, do you even need a drummer and drums in your song versus programmed drums and beat making type sounds? And so that's really going to be dependent on the type of music that you're recording. So, I mean, pop music is almost all entirely beat making. You could, I guess, have a guy play an electric kit or record on a regular kit and then trigger a bunch of samples. But he's not going to be very interested, is he? These things tend to be loops. I mean, they're rap beats with singing on top, or often with rap on top. And this has gone into all kinds of different genres of music. If you listen to pop music that is not necessarily like your top 40 stuff, there are still a lot of sounds that are not traditional drum sounds, even if they're done in tandem with regular drum sounds. Also, think about like country music now. Has a lot of beat making going on, and also these types of songs tend to not be very developmental in their percussion. And so you can get away with having a small loop section over and over and some embellishment added on later. Also to this point, the other day I did a video on recording for the song, which is to make the song sound as good as the song can sound regardless of how you get there. And so if you're a singer-songwriter and you play acoustic guitar and sing and write words and you go somewhere to record, like let's say that you show up, depending on the type of studio. I have people do this because you know, I encourage this kind of thing. They show up with a verse and a chorus, and they want a full production. All they play is guitar. So I program the drums. Now, I don't have a lot of dexterity with drums as an instrument, but I do know the beats, what they're supposed to sound like, things like that. Can think like a drummer, and I program them to sound very much like the target of percussion that we're trying to hit, which is the thing for you producers to be thinking about, rather than just make some random beat, think, I need a country beat. I need this, that, the other. You know, study some drums. That's another video entirely. But it makes more sense to not hire a session player to record drums if we only have half a song to begin with. If we're using samples, it's a lot easier to get something down that we may keep or may change entirely, perfectly in time, loopable, and then as we go through the song, you can add to it, you can go back and change it without having to call people up, spend more money, things like that. This kind of difficulty in recording is also something to consider if maybe the guy in your band has never actually recorded in a studio before and you're trying to make a, say, very slick pop country song. The next big point to all of this is, are you even capable of recording real drums at a level that makes sense to do it? So I've got two pictures here. This guy is recording with 3 mics in a house, and this person has a huge dedicated drum room and everything is mic'd. There may be bottom mics. It's a big operation. So if you are going to a small studio, or if you have your own studio and you have 8 channels total, you can't even get this mic'd up, provided you have this huge tuned room. So here's where this all gets tricky, is again, depending on the genre of music, that's going to deal with the sort of drum sounds that you need, just like it would deal with the sort of guitar sounds you need, or whatever. If all you can do is get 3 mics on your drum kit, or 4, in a small room, it is going to sound like they did in the 60s. If you're trying to record something that sounds like a Metallica song, that's your goal, then those drum sounds that you're able to get are not going to be effective. And so, you have to say, would it be better if I just programmed samples the best I can? Because by the time you get done, you can have your drummer sitting right there. What would you play? All right, knock it out on the keyboard. Get an electric kit. Have him play it. You could make your own samples of cymbals if you just really had to, but I don't think that you would bother once you saw what you got in context. I've done this. It just doesn't make sense if you can only get this tone, let's call it that, and you absolutely have to have this tone, then that's your stopping point. Now you need to go back and look at samples or drum replacement, things like that. Other thing, depending on how fast you're going, how fast the song is, how technical the drums are going to be, you may not even be able to accurately replace them in software with this sort of setup. So you need to look at, can you even do it? Drums are one of the hardest things to record because they're very loud, they're very large, and there's a lot of pieces. And depending on the amount of slickness you desire, you may just not be able to do it. So I feel like I've been a bit anti-drummer in this thing, and that's because I don't have the room to mic up drums, and I don't play drums as well as I play them on keyboard. So it's not for me. Now, I will say, when is a good time to mic up the drums, get the drummer, do the stuff? If you are doing any kind of like roots music, blues, jazz, any kind of Americana, any kind of music that does not necessarily have to stand up against what is on the radio, like what is popular on the radio, mic that stuff up, play it live, do whatever you want. Watch other videos. I don't have any yet, but I'll probably make some. How to mic up a drum kit with whatever you've got so that it sounds the best. You don't want any phasing, things like that. There's a huge can of worms that you open up when you say, I'm going to do this old school with a drummer the way that it used to be. But what you don't want is you don't want to have great sounding vocals, great sounding direct bass. Maybe you use modeled guitar amps and your guitars sound like anything under the sun and they're super slick, and then all of a sudden you have that old splatty, no front kick drum head kick drum. That's not what you want. It's like a dimensional shift at that point. And yeah, you can say, well, it's our sound. Well, that's fine. Watch my last video. I talk a little bit about how people that don't know you just want to hear more familiar things. That's the game. We don't have to like it, but we do have to. If we want to make any money and sell our music, have people like it, we do have to work a little bit within that construct. Anyway, I hope that video got you thinking about things. I know it was a bit rambly. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll make some more videos to clarify or just talk more about this stuff. Really, the idea here is just to get you thinking about this and away from what I hear so often of just blanket writing off of programming drums and things like that. I mean, everybody's happy to not be cutting tape with razor blades, and so I feel like there's happiness to be had in this too.